Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming or Battlefield 3 related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way really quickly, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in a future episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a YouTube message. So the first question for today comes in from Pasalacqua. I'm sure I'm butchering that completely, so I apologize. But his question is, what if on some maps there were certain MCOMs or flags in which the only way to reach them was via air vehicles? For example, maybe in Rush, A is on the ground but B is on a mountaintop and several transport helicopters lift the soldiers to it. They could balance this by setting the defensive spawn back some ways to prevent ledge camping with Stinger missiles and such. Your thoughts? So, in theory, this does sound pretty cool, but from a designer's standpoint, and for someone who is trying to construct a map and just to try to keep action fast-paced and flowing around every single objective, I don't think it would be, I don't think it would work, and that's for really a couple of reasons. If you kind of think about it from a conquest perspective, let's say you're in a mountain valley, you have all of your capture points around in the floor, but then you have a couple that are on the fringe, and the only way to reach them is, like you said, from an air vehicle. Those capture points would probably be taken at the start of the match, and then they may be contested every once in a while, but people probably wouldn't take the time to go over there because you're only going to find maybe campers who are just sitting there all day, which isn't going to be very fun, or you're not going to run into any resistance, and it's just going to be you taking the objective with no action. And when I play a first-person shooter, I mean, sure, I want to play the objective and I want to help my team, but at the same time, I want to run into enemy soldiers. I want to play the first-person shooter aspect of a video game. And so I think that if they did have this, they wouldn't be very action-oriented. I mean, maybe every once in a while you would have some pretty cool helicopter battles where the victor is able to capture the objective, but it would probably just result in a lot of just kind of dull gameplay that I don't think a lot of people would really be all that into. But now you also bring up Rush in a scenario where one of the MCOMs is also in a position where the only place to reach it is with a transport helicopter. But once again, it sounds cool in concept, but if you really start to think about it, it would kind of turn into a nightmare. If you have ever been in a helicopter with a pilot that doesn't know what they're doing, it's kind of frustrating. They fly in a random direction, they crash in the ground, you get your entire squad killed because of that pilot, and it's really, really annoying. Now imagine your entire team being reliant on one of those pilots or multiple pilots to get your entire team onto the objective. Like, it just doesn't seem like a plausible idea. And while maybe every once in a while your allies will be able to take that MCOM, I have a feeling the defensive team would have a huge advantage over the offensive team, and that map would get very stagnant very quickly once you got to that particular base. Like I said, cool in concept, but once you start to really think about how it would be implemented in the game, it just doesn't hold up. So the next question for today comes in from John R, who asks, do you think that DICE should increase the maximum number of players in Battlefield 4, like when they did with 64 players on Battlefield 3? So I am definitely not opposed to having larger server counts in Battlefield 4, but as long as the maps themselves are balanced around that player count. I don't want to play on a map that is the size of Operation Metro with 120 people. 64 is already way too much, and I know people enjoy that because it's absolutely mayhem and they can just farm experience, but from a designer's standpoint, that map just does not work with that many people in there. But at the same time, I also don't want to play on a gigantic map with very few people, which is basically what the console players have had to deal with, especially on, like, let's say the Armored Kill DLC. But it is possible to balance maps for larger players. They just have to take that in consideration. So yeah, I am all for it, but as long as they take everything into account, they make sure that all of the maps are balanced for the correct players, even if they want to make a smaller, more condensed map, but have the cap be 32 people. I am for that as well. Having just more people on a map does not make a game better. It does not make a map better. It's the map design and the amount of player count and balancing everything around those two, which makes a fun and enjoyable experience experience for everyone. So the final question for today comes in from viewer Daniel, who asks, since drones are increasingly becoming a huge part of modern Battlefield, what do you think about DICE implementing an attack drone in Battlefield 4? Something like the MAV with a small caliber gun attached? How would you balance it, and do you think it has a place in Battlefield 4? So this idea is kind of tricky, because if you have it as an MAV, you have it as an attachment or a gadget that, let's say, the recon can use, then it may turn into just a gadget that gets abused, because it can get you kills, it can scout out, and it's not, if it dies, it can just be replenished by an ammo crate. You can hide in a corner throughout the entire round, and you don't leave yourself exposed to dying. And so people would play as the recon and just fly those things around and basically just be a giant nuisance. I mean, I'm sure you could balance it so maybe you could only have it once a death or something along those lines, but still, you would probably run into some problems. On the other hand, if you try to do it like something in Bad Company 2, where you have a stationary spot, like on the map somewhere, where you have to stand. If you guys have played Bad Company 2, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you have it like that, you'll know that a lot of people didn't really get their hands on it or didn't use it very often because you left yourself extremely exposed. If anyone saw one of those bad boys up in the air, instead of maybe just trying to take it out, they could just go run around, find you standing next to this little objective, and they can just put a bunch of bullets to your face, get a free kill, and then go about their day. And so it's really hard to balance one of these things in a first-person shooter. And if DICE does want to go down this route, I'm not exactly sure what the best approach really would be, because if you do it one way, you're going to lead to some problems, and if you go the other way, you're also going to run into some difficulties. But if you guys have some sort of idea on how they could approach it, let everyone know down below in the comment section, because I personally I think it would be cool, but I'm just not exactly sure how they could balance it. But those are all the questions that I'm going to be answering for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to submit your own question that could be in a future episode, you can always leave a comment down below or send me a YouTube message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.